How you doing, everybody? I'm Ken Bykoff, and welcome to O'Neill Speaks, the official podcast of the Paul H. O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs at Indiana University. Sustainability has long stopped being just a corporate buzzword or some nice elective. It's a critical part of planning in just about every aspect of our lives, the fundamental operating system for a world facing rapid climate shifts and resource scarcity. It's about building systems that are regenerative rather than just extractive, ensuring that our progress today doesn't become a debt for the generation of tomorrow. And the generation of tomorrow is already playing their part. At the O'Neill School on both our Bloomington and Indianapolis campuses, sustainability interns conduct holistic assessments of the O'Neill School and its operations to identify areas where improvement is needed. But studying things isn't enough. Awareness is critical as well, and the group has built a website to allow stakeholders to understand where and how improvements can make a difference. I'm joined today by McKenzie Jones, Mae Allen, and Jessica Davis. McKenzie is the Bloomington Sustainability Intern at the O'Neill School and is a second-year graduate student working toward a Master of Public Administration as well as a Master of Environmental Science with a concentration in energy and climate change solutions. Mae is the O'Neill Sustainability Intern on the IU Indianapolis campus, pursuing a degree in sustainable practices and policy. Jessica is IU's Associate Vice President and Chief Sustainability Officer and is an associate faculty member at the O'Neill School. Jessica, McKenzie, and Mae, welcome to O'Neill Speaks.
Thank you so much for having us on today.
So for any of you, how did the specific internship model come to be?
Sure, I can probably take that one since McKenzie and Mae are the beneficiary of it. It really started with a conversation with Dean Mooney. We had been talking about the need to have hands-on learning opportunities for our students. We already have a pretty robust internship model in the Office of Sustainability, and we're exploring ways that we could strengthen that. And given O'Neill's sustainability program, it seemed like a next natural jump for where we wanted this program to go. We already have interns embedded into other operational units. So what makes McKenzie and Mae's internship unique is that they're the first ones embedded into an academic or a school unit. And we were curious what that would look like. So really excited to see what these ladies are able to do to contribute to O'Neill. But so far, they've done some really amazing things.
McKenzie and Mae, I'll ask you, as you stepped into this internship, what did you envision for it initially? McKenzie, go ahead and start with you.
Okay. That I honestly didn't really know what to envision for this internship. I think, one, I was really looking for a job. That was kind of a big requirement. Coming to a new state for graduate school, everything was kind of up in the air and new. And I saw this position and I saw that it was in my school. And I thought, hey, that's like a perfect application of my skills. And I'm doing something that will directly impact sustainability within the school itself. And kind of like see the fruits of my labor as well, because I am a student here. So I didn't really know what to expect. It was pretty daunting, I will say, to start because there was no precedent by any means. And we kind of just had this, it felt like a very lofty goal of make O'Neill more sustainable. But we set the groundwork from there. But it was pretty daunting to begin with.
How about you, Mae?
Yeah, so I kind of had a very similar experience where I was, I took Jessica's intro to sustainability class my freshman year, and at the end of that class, she had a career panel, and one of the big things that the panelists stressed was internships, they're so important, experience is so important. So I was like, okay, I know Jessica, I'm just going to apply for this for the best. And it really has taught me so much. I feel like I started out in this internship not feeling like I know a lot, but now I feel much more comfortable in applying the things that I learned in my classes.
For McKenzie and Mae, where does your passion for sustainability come from?
I always joke that my passion started in a fourth grade science classroom when I first learned about climate change and its impact on polar bears. And of course, polar bears are my favorite animal at this moment in time. So I've always just had like a strong pull to the environment. Sustainability specifically, I think is such a broad, expansive field to explore. And I really like being able to live in that like ambiguity and that nuance and work on various projects all under the lens of sustainability, because it's still holistically working for my goal of helping the environment, but there's so many different faucets that I can work from.
Yeah, for me, I took a earth-based class my junior year of high school, and I was like, oh my gosh, I really like this. I had been struggling previously and trying to figure out kind of what I wanted to do, what I wanted to major in college. And then I went and took AP Environmental Science my senior year, and I was like, yeah, this is for me. So I came here as an environmental science student and then switched over to sustainability. And it has just been such a great fit. I feel like I have such a passion for this sphere.
Jessica, why is it important for the O'Neill School to have its own dedicated sustainability interns?
Well, one thing I think having dedicated interns definitely helps contribute to the academic mission, which is why O'Neill is around, right? As McKenzie and Mae have said, how do you translate oftentimes the theory that you learn in the classroom, but then apply it to real life? My opinion would be, and I remember when I was a student, I was an O'Neill student too, there is nothing that doing something will always teach you more than sitting down and doing it in a classroom. Right. So being able to bridge that gap and just provide this really robust extracurricular experience for our students is fantastic. But then also from the sustainability office's perspective, the units that perform the best in sustainability are those where we have students like this embedded into them. So up until this point, I mentioned we have interns embedded in operational units. We have sustainable transportation interns working with our parking and transportation and bike group. We have sustainable food interns working with IU dining, energy interns working with the energy and utilities groups. But how do we address schools? Because there are things to do at the school level, and our model of embedding students into those groups and having them become vital to the workflow has translated beautifully into the academic environment as well. I also think what's really unique about their experience is that unlike some of our other interns where they're embedded in like these very specific categories like energy, transportation, food, Mae and McKenzie actually get to sample a little bit of all of that. So whereas some of our interns may get a lot of depth, McKenzie and Mae are getting a lot more breadth. They're still getting the depth too because they're working with the same energy engineering team that our energy interns are, but they're getting a bit wider angle on what sustainability could look like, really ultimately in a role like mine one day, because in the sustainability office, we have to focus across all of these different pillars of work, and they're able to do that within the O'Neill School. So that sort of exposure is just unbelievably valuable to us as an office. Mae and McKenzie are major bandwidth extenders for us, but also hopefully to them and their future career and future success as well.
McKenzie, this is the first time this work is being done at the O'Neill School. How do you actually go about implementing sustainability at a location that's this large?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. So the main thing that when we started this internship, the main thing we did not want to do was make baseless recommendations based off what we assumed was going on in the building. So yes, we might know that energy usage is an issue and waste is an issue, but we can't really go from there without having the data and analyzing it and then understanding where we can improve. So the first idea that we worked in was this idea of a greenhouse gas inventory, which is kind of a buzzword. A lot of places do them. So we have like cities, corporations, IU does a greenhouse gas inventory for all its campuses. But most simply, it's just a metric to be able to understand where your sources of emissions are coming from and the magnitude of those emissions. So from there, you're kind of able to plot where you are and then project where you want to be. So we've kind of been working a lot within this framework to understand, okay, where can we reasonably reduce our emissions? But it really all starts with creating this baseline and understanding the data that we have available, collecting more if need be, and working from those assumptions from there.
Mae, have these results been significantly different between campuses when you're looking at the data?
Yeah, so the overall trends and the patterns have been very similar, but there obviously is a big difference in the size of the schools, and there's going to be a proportional difference with the magnitude of emissions, or like we do things called waste audits where we sort through trash. So there's going to be much more trash to sort in Bloomington than there will be in Indianapolis, simply because of the size of the schools. But overall, the trends have been very similar.
McKenzie and Mae, if you could walk through some of the projects that you've worked on, some of the data that you've collected.
Yeah, so going back to the idea of a greenhouse gas inventory, where we saw our emissions were the greatest was in this idea of scope 2, which is essentially purchased energy and electricity. So when I say energy and electricity, electricity is really talking about the idea of lights and computers in rooms, while energy or HVAC systems are more focused on the heating and cooling of our school. So working from there, we kind of saw that there were some opportunities to focus on energy. And last semester, we had this opportunity, or there was opportunity to potentially upgrade some of our old energy inefficient lighting. And this requires first, again, with the data collection, understanding where the distribution of lighting in O'Neill currently is. Is there a lot of LEDs in some section of the school, or is it more fluorescence? Where would be the best place for intervention to improve our lighting? And this starts with doing a lighting inventory. And when I say lighting inventory, I know that sounds pretty official, but in actuality, it's a lot of kind of craning your neck up at the ceiling and trying to decipher if you're staring at a fluorescent or an LED bulb and squinting a little bit. But it's vital work. It's really important to be able to understand what the built infrastructure of our building looks like and understanding where the improvements can be from there. So currently we're analyzing some of this data, but this data and changing out our inefficient lighting is kind of the low-hanging fruit of sustainability. So things that we can do relatively quickly, relatively efficiently, that are a pretty big bang for our buck, that are going to reduce our emissions in a non-trivial way.
Yeah, and emissions are not the only thing to consider with sustainability. We also want to consider what we're producing as a school, like we're giving out, commonly known as swag. It's like t-shirts, pins, all sorts of stuff that we hand out as a school. And as sustainability interns, we never want to go into somebody's space and tell them what to do. That just doesn't go well, and it's not very productive. We want to do what we can to make these people in these spaces feel comfortable to switching to more sustainable products. Right now, we have a sustainable swag guide that is just kind of written things that the sustainability office suggests for swag purchases. But we decided to take that a step further and create a sustainable swag kit where we order some of the things that we recommend and have them physically there so people can touch and feel, really understand that, they might be making a switch, but it won't actually be that big of a difference in the quality of a product. So we're trying to make people more comfortable with changing their purchasing decisions.
Jessica, is it what kind of autonomy are the interns given to kind of work on these projects? Is it more of a guiding hand from you, or do they come in and bounce ideas off of you and you help them out that way?
In my book, Mae and McKenzie, I treat them just like our staff, which means I'll certainly be there to framework. I think McKenzie and Mae mentioned at first being a little overwhelmed, help set the foundation of what we're doing for them. But then in order to learn, you got to go off and do it. So I tend to cut them loose, say, go talk to this person to learn. It's up to them to learn how to use an Outlook calendar, learn how to schedule a meeting with somebody, learn how to set an agenda. That in of itself is a learning activity. They often are bringing ideas. So I might have my own idea for what I think we might want to do within O'Neill. But then because Mae and McKenzie are the deep learners, they're the ones in the space walking it every single day. They are seeing and hearing things that our team cannot see or hear. And they're bringing them back to the table and say, hey, I'm seeing this as a problem. I think this could be something that we could do to address it. So it's very much a collaborative sort of partnership that we have together. I trust their judgments and their observations just as much as I would trust one of our own team members. And for me, I also tend to not want to box our interns into any sort of job description. So they may be the written job description, but the things that they are interested in that live outside of that written job description are just as important for me to support as the things that we need to get done in the job description. So if they have things that they're interested in, that they want to work on, that they have their passion projects, it's my job to figure out a way to support them in getting that done. So it's definitely a conversation every time and a partnership about figuring out what to do and why and what's important and how do we triage different interests to make sure we're prioritizing the right thing. But it's been great working them. And I think we've learned a lot from, hopefully they and I have learned a lot too, about how do you, there's so much to do. How do you pick the first thing to focus on? Like, what's the best use of your time and effort? And there's also just a lot of inherent learnings that come about. I try to be really diligent with them. It's like, okay, this is a learning opportunity. You know, it may not have been on the syllabus. It may not have been something I originally thought that you might learn in this internship, but because we created these other opportunities through your interest, here's something that we need to make sure that I'm calling out as a learning opportunity.
Mae, what are some of the ways this internship has changed your perspective on sustainability?
I mean, I personally learn best by actually doing things. So getting to actually apply the concepts that I learn in class really solidifies that sort of deeper understanding of sustainability. I did not fully understand the full scope of sustainability when I first started this internship. All of the things we do with energy, with waste, with procurement, there's so many different things that we get to be a part of and that we get to focus on. And it really broadened my horizons with sustainability and showed me what's possible.
If I can expand on that a little bit. It's definitely broadened my horizons too. I come from a undergraduate institution where I got a degree in engineering. So I've been trained holistically to think about problems like very, very linearly. How do I get from point A to point B, and how can I apply this to all other situations? And sustainability is not a technical framework. So that was something new that I had to learn how to operate in. When you're considering like this integration of social, economic, environmental across all these different pillars of energy, waste, procurement, there's a lot of nuance and there's a lot of actors and you have to learn how to manage them all. So I have just grown to appreciate how broad it is, but also the ambiguity of it and learning to live in that ambiguity. I think sustainability is truly about like listening, learning, and then acting. I think that's something that's so important.
What experience have you guys gained that might not have been available in a traditional classroom setting?
So in a classroom setting, if you were to work a project, everything's hypothetical. Everything that you plan and that you actually do is all hypothetical, which is great and it can help you learn. But actually being able to do these things has been super helpful. It's very satisfying to plan a project and then actually see it through, see it carried out. We get these real life experiences. We get to make connections with different people in the school that we never would have interacted with otherwise. And it really gives us those employable skills saying, hey, I didn't actually just learn about this. I can do this. I've done it. Here's how it went.
I know you guys have put together a website to kind of present the data for everybody. How can people find it and what kind of things will they see on that website?
So this website was really born out of an idea of sharing O'Neill's sustainability story with everyone. This past year of this internship, we have operated in data collection and data analysis, and now it's really kind of time to share our results with everyone. What's the purpose of all this data collection if we're not sharing what is going on and what we're doing to improve? So the official website is now live and ready for people to learn a little bit more. It's at blogs.iu.edu. O'Neill Sustainability, all one word. And there's currently a lot of information on there about the projects that Mae and I are currently working on, as well as the data of some of our inventories and audits. But there's also a lot more information to come. Mae and I plan on posting every couple of weeks to keep you updated just on O'Neill's journey and where we're planning on heading with future initiatives. So we hope it's an opportunity for people to learn just a little bit more about sustainability as a whole and sustainability and how it operates at O'Neill.
McKenzie and Mae, but what's some of the future projects that you see for this internship?
Yeah, so now that we've laid a lot of the groundwork with creating a baseline, like McKenzie talked about, we're actually planning to meet with the deans of our school to present all of our findings and the recommendations based on our findings, along with some of the projects we've already completed and their successes. So that's something we're really excited about and something we're working towards since the very beginning.
I'll also add another thing that they are working on is eventually our students do have to graduate. That's the whole point, right? Is that they grow up and they graduate and they leave us. We hate that they leave us, but that's the point. So Mae and McKenzie have been preparing for their replacements. It's one thing to work on all these efforts, but how have you documented them? Can somebody else pick them up quickly and continue moving the baton down the field? So Mae and McKenzie have been putting together SOPs, standard operating procedures for some of their data collection, for some of their analysis, so that whoever replaces them will be able to pick up where they left off and keep up with the good work.
Jessica, how could students get involved in this going forward?
Sure. The best way to stay up to date on internships that are available in our office is to sign up for the Office of Sustainability's newsletter. You can find that at sustainability.iu.edu on the resources tab. It could be internships like Mae and McKenzie's that are embedded into O'Neill, or any of our other internship programs that are typically embedded within operational or business units at the university, but that's the best place to find them. And always, if you're a student that's interested in sustainability, reach out to us. It's always the students who show the most sort of initial gumption, the bravery of sending that first email, making that first phone call, walking over, that often end up being the ones who are most successful in getting the opportunity simply because they had the courage to stand up and ask. It can be easy to stay seated and not ask for an opportunity. So please advocate for yourself. Come talk to us. We'd love to work with you.
Last question for you guys, McKenzie and Mae, just what do you want people to know about this internship that I haven't asked you about already?
Mae, do you want to take that?
Yes, so I would like to mention all of the people that we've been able to work with that have helped us so far in this internship. We've got to work with so many different departments. We got to work with Sam Winters in energy with our LED lighting inventory. Kelsey Beal down in Bloomington helped us with our greenhouse gas inventories. In Indy, I've been able to work with Drew Smith in marketing. I've also been working with a couple of the deans, like Suzanne Lepton, to work on some future projects. Everyone has been so amazing and so wonderful, and I've learned a lot from every single person I've been able to work with.
And I think this really goes into the idea that sustainability is not an isolated field. Sustainability interacts with all of the offices that Mae mentioned and more. And we've had the pleasure of an opportunity to work with all of these offices to try to develop sustainable intervention somehow. And I think that is key in knowing that sustainability is not what we necessarily think about it. Sustainability can be integrated in anything. And having those connections across a variety of fields has helped us throughout the project.
Well, this is absolutely a critical area. Jessica, thank you so much for setting up this internship to begin with. And McKenzie and Mae, thank you for all your hard work. McKenzie, go ahead and hit us up with that web address for your website again.
Yeah, it's at blogs.iu.edu/O'Neill Sustainability, all one word.
Well, thank you so much for joining O'Neill Speaks, and thank you so much for setting the foundation for a sustainable future at the O'Neill School and IU.
Yeah, and thanks to O'Neill for supporting all of it. We couldn't do it without their partnership.
Well, that's all the time we have today on O'Neill Speaks. O'Neill Speaks is the official podcast of the Paul H. O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs. All opinions and comments on O'Neill Speaks belongs to the host and the guest of the O'Neill School and don't necessarily reflect those of the school itself. Music for O'Neill Speaks is by Manos Mars. Be sure to subscribe to O'Neill Speaks on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcatcher app so you don't miss an episode. We're out of time, but for now, and for the O'Neill School, I'm Ken Bykoff saying thanks for listening, everybody.